Hi, welcome back to my channel, The Dizzy Jewels. Today I wanted to show you a few of my recent purchases from half-price books and a comic book store that I frequent. Okay, so I have my stuff in this brown bag here. It's very crinkly, kind of loud. So you can see they gave me this bag at the store, and so I'm just going to show you all what's inside of it. So the first item I have is these Harry Potter bookmarks. So I really love Harry Potter, and so whenever I see stuff like this, I always want to buy it because Harry Potter is a part of my childhood and it's very nostalgic for me. And so these bookmarks were about $5, which I think is a reasonable price. And they have different insignias from the novels, and you can see this is platform 9 3/4 from the Hogwarts Express. This has the different banners from the houses of the school, Hogwarts. This is the Deathly Hallow symbol, and this is the Death Eater symbol. And these are magnetic bookmarks, so they hold your place in the book really well. You don't ever have to worry about losing your spot when you're reading, as long as you use these. Okay, what else do we have in here? Okay, so I bought this book from Half Price Books. It was only $5. And so this is the Call of Cthulhu and Other Stories by H.P. Lovecraft. And so I've actually never read anything by H.P. Lovecraft. I do know that he is a well-beloved horror author, so I wanted to give him a try since I love Stephen King so much. And let's read the back here. It says, unknowable evils, horrifying cosmic beings, and supernatural terrors haunt the pages of H.P. Lovecraft's Cthulhu stories. As ordinary men and women discover the truth about the Elder Gods in their dangerous ways, they begin to doubt their own sanity and must battle against their fears and their own worst instincts as they struggle to survive in the darkness. This collection contains 11 essential stories from Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, including the Call of Cthulhu, the Horror at Red Hook, and the Rats in the Walls. And so this is about, it looks like it's 224 pages or so. And I think this will be a quick read. These stories are really short, so I can read one story, then take a break, then come back and read another one, and I imagine I'll get through this book in no time. I really like that sound. Okay. So, well, I'm gonna see what stories we have. It says there's 11 total. So it gives, on page 7, there's an introduction. On page 9, we have the story, The Nameless City, followed by Herbert West Reanimator, The Hound, The Lurking Fear, The Rats in the Walls, The Festival, The Shunned House, The Horror at Red Hook, He, The Call of Cthulhu, and finally, The History of the Necronomicon. And so, I'm really excited to read this because I've heard great things about H.P. Lovecraft. And I don't know much about the story of Cthulhu, but I think it's centered around this tentacled beast that we see here. And Looks like this monster has horns, tentacles, and possibly wings with horns. Looks really scary. I also kind of want to play the video game. I think it's also called Call of Cthulhu. There's a video game that I'd like to play. I just don't know if it's any good, so I haven't bought it yet, but maybe reading these stories will inspire me to buy that video game, and then I can play it on my Nintendo Switch or PlayStation. I love the smell of books. It smells so good. It's very nostalgic for me. I was such a bookworm when I was a kid. And so I'm really looking forward to reading that. I was very happy that the price was only $5. And it's a paperback book, rather small, and all the stories are, you know, from the 1900s, I believe. So they're really old. So I know H.P. Lovecraft, I think he was prolific during the 1920s, possibly. So most of his stories are rather old, but they're still good. I want to say they're timeless. It's kind of loud. Okay, so I found another X-Files book from the store. This was from the comic book store. And so this was $15 at the comic book store I go to. They sell everything basically retail price, so this was $15 plus tax. And so this is the X-Files Archives Vol.2. I don't have Volume 1, so that's unfortunate, but at least I was able to find Volume 2. I don't think they had Volume 1 at the store, but they didn't have too much X-Files stuff. I found this in like a couple other books, and I decided to buy this one because it seemed the most interesting. And so this has two standalone novels, one called Skin by Ben Mesrich, and the other is Antibodies by Kevin J. Anderson. And so if we read the back here, it says, the X-Files Archives Volume 2 presents celebrated stories from the long history of the X-Files. Skin wraps Agent Mulder and Scully in mystery when a skin harvesting accident leaks from Plush Biotech Company headquarters to the deep jungles of Thailand. Will they find the legendary Skin Eater? Written by Ben Mesrich. Antibodies aren't enough to protect the team when fire at a research lab leads the two agents into a shadowy web operating at the forefront of modern medicine. How far will someone go to cure any disease, heal any wound, and unlock the secrets of immortality? Written by Kevin J. Anderson. And so, if you don't know, the X-Files was a long-running series by Fox. It premiered in the 1990s and it ran into the early 2000s. There's, I believe, 2 movies that are part of the X-Files universe, and there's also a reboot series, There's a reboot series that came out, I believe, around 2015 or 16. So there's about 11 total seasons. So there's a lot of episodes. If you're looking for something to watch, I suggest the X-Files, especially if you like supernatural and paranormal stuff. And so this is Agent Dana Scully and this is Agent Fox Mulder. They're both FBI agents that investigate different supernatural events. Agent Scully is a doctor of medicine, and Mulder has I believe a BA in psychology from Oxford University, and he's just really smart, and they both travel the United States looking at various supernatural events, and they both try to explain them Mulder looks at the events from a very believer of paranormal perspective, and Dana is the skeptic of the duo, and so they kind of bounce off each other really well. So I really love the relationship dynamic between Mulder and Scully, and so this show is basically my childhood, so I really love it. And this has about 362 pages, so it's gonna take a while to read, and it's 2 separate stories, so I'll probably read one, and then after a bit, maybe read one, maybe take a break for about a month, and then read the other one. I don't see myself reading this in one sitting because that's a lot of reading, and I have other books to go through that I want to read first. I really love how soft this book feels, and you can see on the inside the text is very soft too. It's very easy on the eyes. Okay, so then I have 2 last books. And they're not novels, they're comic books. I bought one from Half Price Books. This one was $13.56, and I bought this other one from the comic book store, and this was, I believe, $20. And so these are comics called Mouse. So it's volume 1 and volume 2. So this is by Art Spiegelman, and it's a survivor's tale. My Father Blade's History. Volume 1 and volume 2 is And Here My Troubles Began. And so what caught my attention when I was, looking through the bookstore is this here, unfortunately, is very associated with the Nazis. Right away I was like, what is this? Is this like a cat Hitler or something? You can tell it's looks like Hitler, and then it has whiskers, so I was like, what is this? And then you have these mice here. They're kind of like cowering together, and I was like, oh, is this about Nazi Germany? So then I read the infographic here, because I had no idea when I was in the store what this was about. I'd never heard of this comic before. So this cover caught my attention, and then I read the infographic, and I'll read it to you now. So, winner of the 1992 Pulitzer Prize. Mouse is a story of Vladek Spiegelman, a Jewish survivor of Hitler's Europe, and his son, a cartoonist who tries to come to terms with his father's terrifying story, and history itself. Its form, the cartoon, the Nazis are cats and the Jews are mice, succeeds perfectly in shocking us out of any lingering sense of familiarity with the events described, approaching as it does the unspeakable through the diminutive. It is, as a New York Times book review has commented, a remarkable feat of documentary detail and novelistic vividness, an unfolding literary event. Moving back and forth from Poland to Rego Park, New York, Mouse tells 2 powerful stories. The first is Spiegelman's father's account of how he and his wife survived Hitler's Europe. A harrowing tale filled with countless brushes with death, improbable escapes, and the terror of confinement and betrayal. The second is the author's tortured relationship with his aging father as he tried to lead a normal life of minor arguments and passing visits against a backdrop of history too large to pacify. At all levels, this is the ultimate survivor's tale, and that too of the children who somehow survive, even the survivors. Part 1 of Mouse takes Spiegelman's parents to the gates of Auschwitz and him to the edge of despair. Put aside all your preconceptions. These cats and mice are not Tom and Jerry, but somehow quite different. This is a new kind of literature. And so I was really intrigued by this when I read that in the store. And it's based off true events, and it's basically Art Spiegelman's father's journey, about what he experienced as a survivor of the Holocaust. And so I really I think I'm going to read this soon. I bought it about a week ago, and I've been looking forward to reading it. And just so you can see what the art style looks like, it's all in black and white. You can see here, it's very, I want to say, it reminds me of those like old cartoons that you'd see in newspapers from like the 60s, from the 1960s. So it has that very oldish style of cartoons, and everything's in black and white. This first volume is 159 pages, and I thought that was just an interesting way to tell the story of his family, is to use to make the characters into basically mice. And then I haven't read it, but I think that's a very interesting approach to, you know, his story. It seems like yeah, it seems like not all the characters are mice. I guess only the Jewish are the mice, and then there's various other animals here. Like I see a pig person. I haven't read the book, so I don't know who the pig is supposed to represent, but I'm pretty sure that the cat is, you know, Hitler and his army. And so I'm really looking forward to reading this. It says, Mouse is a book that cannot be put down, truly, even to sleep. When to the mice speak of love, you are moved. When they suffer, you weep. Slowly through this little tale, comprised of suffering, humor, and life's daily trials, you are captivated by the language of an old Eastern European family, and drawn into the gentle and memorizing rhythm. And when you finish Mouse, you are unhappy to have left that magical world and long for the sequel that will return you to it. And that was a quote by Umberto Eco. Okay. And so I really like the art style. It reminds me of just like, you know, simple ink drawings, and I just know that this is going to be a very profound book or story. So I'm going to take my time reading this. And when I realized that I had the first part, I was like, well, now I need to buy the second volume, but they didn't have it at half-price books, so I went to different stores around me to look for the second volume, and I was thinking about buying it online because I couldn't really find it, but fortunately I found it at the comic book store, and This was actually the hardcover version. And the second volume is about 135 pages, so it's a little bit shorter, but it has that same, you know, art style where everything's in black and white, and the people are actually, you know, animal characters. And so it's going to be such an interesting read. It says here, all too infrequently a book comes along that's as daring as it is acclaimed. Art Spiegelman's Mouse is just such a book, by Esquire. And it says here, acclaimed as a quiet triumph and a brutally moving work of art, the first volume of Art Spiegelman's Mouse introduced readers to Vladek Spiegelman, a Jewish survivor of Hitler's Europe, and his son, a cartoonist trying to come to terms with his father's terrifying story and history itself. And it looks like it says basically very similar to the first introduction. This long-awaited sequel, subtitled "And Here My Troubles Began," moves us from the barracks of Auschwitz to the bungalows of the Catskills. Genuinely tragic and comic by turns, it attains a complexity of theme and a precision of thought new to comics and rare in any medium. Mouse ties together two powerful stories. Vladek's harrowing tale of survival against all odds. Mouse ties together two powerful stories. Vladek's harrowing tale of survival against all odds, delineating the paradox of daily life in the death camps, and the author's account of his tortured relationship with his aging father. Vladek's troubled remarriage, minor arguments between father and son, and life's everyday disappointments are all set against a backdrop of history too large to pacify. At every level, this is the ultimate survivor's tale, and that too of the children who somehow survive even the survivors. Okay. So I just know that this is going to be a great read, and it's basically a work of art. So one thing that I did learn is that apparently one of the checkout guys, when I was buying the second volume, he said that these books are actually being banned from schools, and I was like, I hate that schools are banning books nowadays. I don't think that should be, that shouldn't be a thing, you know? Kids should be exposed to all sorts of things, you know, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You shouldn't just allow kids to read stories about, you know, good, positive stuff. You also have to let people read about the negative sides of life. And the fact that some schools or school systems are trying to ban books like this just to protect kids from, you know, violence, it's not a good idea, in my opinion. And I love books. I read all types of books when I was a kid, and if I had been limited in my book choice, I probably wouldn't have liked reading as much. So it's just really alarming that some people don't want their kids to be exposed to, you know, different books like this. But it's not like this is, you know, a made-up story. It's real history. It's somebody's life, and I think it's important. important for everyone to have access to books like this, you know? And I think when I'm done reading this, I'll probably donate it back to Half Price Books. And yeah, I think I'll just end up donating it back to Half Price Books because I think other people should have an opportunity to read this story. It'd be nice to keep it for like my collection just because I know they're going to be really great story. It's going to be a really well told story and the artwork is very beautiful. But it's important that other people get to read this too, so I'll probably just donate it. So this is I just wanted to say thank you for tuning into my channel. I really like doing these book haul videos. They're really fun for me. I'm really passionate about reading, so getting to share my passion with others is really great. I try to do this in a lo-fi ASMR style where I'm kind of just whispering and showing you all the books that I buy. And I hope to do more videos like this in the future. I can make this like a monthly or bi-weekly series, and I have a lot of books back here, and I might need to buy another bookshelf because I'm kind of running out of room of where to put my new books that I buy. But I know I'm gonna buy more books because it's just I really like to read, and so I need more space for my books. And so thank you again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.